So it's been another week where the video I wanted to release has been blocked by copyright, and I've had to hastily put something else together while the intended video gets appealed. This one probably isn't one you'll all like, which is fine. It's going to be a simple and probably quite odd talk about doors. And I suppose we can start with a simplified version of a kind of art therapy thing. Say I told you to draw a house, nothing fancy, just a simple house that will take you like a minute or 30 seconds or something like that. You could pause the video now and do that if you wanted to, because it won't work the same after I've explained it, if it works at all. Like I said, this is a very simplified version of it for the sake of a video rather than anything really analytical. But sometimes the way we draw a house says something about us, because home is where the heart is, as the saying goes. How does your heart look in a metaphorical house form? But yeah, for example, say it's on the top of a hill, or maybe that suggests feeling isolated in some way, or self-dependent maybe. How solid is the house? Are the lines thick and strong? Does it seem a robust house that's able to stand, or is it a bit sort of flimsy and wonky looking? The roof is often talked about as a lofty space of dreams and ambitions and fantasies, so how big is the roof? What shape is it? Perhaps it's just a flat top that feels like the proper roof is missing. Perhaps you've drawn an attic. I can remember one case study I read somewhere in which, in a bit of it, a kid drew a house and he drew the attic full of rats. So, think what that might suggest. And are there windows? They often suggest a level of openness, but how big are they and how many windows? Is it too open to the point of exposing, or too small to the point of being closed off? Maybe there aren't any windows at all. And similarly, is there a path leading to the house? How welcoming is it for visitors? How big is the door? Is it open or shut? Or maybe just a bit ajar? And what would that mean for you? Would an open door be welcoming? Or is that a sign of feeling not robust and properly protected? Who knows, Don't take this thing at all seriously. It's there isn't like a checklist to what a particular image represents. It's often dependent on a lot of individual factors based on who you are. So you can't take this seriously. It's just an example I've used because it's interesting here, and it highlights, I guess, how these simple things like doors and windows can, on some deeper level, symbolise something more. Doors are symbolically incredibly powerful. We know this because even walking into a different room in a house, we sometimes forget things. You go into the kitchen and forget why you went in there. I do that a lot. And it's like you've had this transition into a different space and it's kind of broken your concentration. Like you've left the thought behind in the other room sort of feeling. So they can have that symbolic effect on you. Or like sometimes you're working hard on a creative project and you get kind of stuck. And in that circumstance, it can be good to step outside the room, because it's kind of like a leaving the thing behind and then thinking outside the box type thing. And they can be powerful in terms of do you leave your bedroom door open or closed when you sleep? Some people like it open, but I know I'd struggle to fall asleep if my bedroom door was open. Even though I'm in a house that's perfectly safe and there's no rational reason for me to be bothered about the bedroom door being open, for me that would feel quite exposed and I wouldn't feel I could properly relax to sleep. So doors, the first thing I guess is they can obviously be a symbol for change, opportunity, growth. You're passing through one place into a new bright future where you get idealistic pictures like this. Transitions from somewhere dark to somewhere bright. And if the door is open, that change feels more possible. You can reach it. Arches even more so, I guess, because there's no physical thing stopping you walking through. There's nothing you can't. Torii gates in Shintoism are a symbol of change from an ordinary space to a sacred space, as far as I understand. So open arches, maybe they are more inviting, but then again, that can be deceptive. Like I talked about in my first Spirited Away video with the gradual transition the characters have there into the spirit world, arches can be So subtle that you don't even notice yourself passing through, and you don't even notice you're changing at all, which can be a scary thought in some ways. You know, how much do we change as people without even realising it until we look back and think, God, what happened to that kid I used to be? And closed doors, obviously not so welcoming. There's a change that we're denied reaching there, you know, stuck at a point in our lives, maybe waiting for a big break that we can't quite achieve. We can't get that door open. Or maybe there's an obstacle in the way of the door, the gatekeeper type setup that most myths across the world involve at some point. You know, what does that gatekeeper symbolise for us? What is this obstacle we have to overcome? And the other dilemma with closed doors is that we can't always see what's on the other side. So what if that change in our lives on the other side of the door, the reality of it isn't anything like we imagine it to be, you know? And what if it's a choice of doors? Which one do we then take? And what if we get it wrong? Can we go back and try the other one, or is that it? And is there even a right or wrong door, you know? What if they're both good choices, but we only have one life and feel, at least at this point in time, like we can only take one path? Maybe this other one will always remain a mystery, something we wonder about for the rest of our lives, but never truly know, you know? And somehow I think it feels more daunting when all the doors look identical. It makes it more uncertain. And the way this picture is angled slightly so it's not face on, not perfectly symmetrical, that I think that makes it feel particularly offsetting. Plus how distant they are from where the camera sits. Most of the shot captures the polished floor, which means you're looking at the doors from far away and from a very low position, you know, so perhaps once you get nearer you'll find the handles are too high to easily reach. Yes, I'm analysing a stock photo, I do realise that. If you can see through the door, maybe that's better. Or maybe it's like a large gate or like an iron bar fence or something that you aren't allowed to pass through, and the feeling of exclusion that creates, you know, like everyone else is on the other side in like a happy park or sitting by a lake and you're shut out. You know, those feelings are incredibly powerful. Like I said, this video is kind of stupid. It's just me rambling about what doors can sometimes mean when we see them in films and paintings and our real lives even. Consciously they mean nothing, but unconsciously they convey some sort of feeling to us that we connect to emotional experiences we've had. And I guess whether the door is an entrance or an exit affects what it might mean, you know, because exits bring a sense of escape where it's not about any hope for the future or anything. It's just about leaving the past behind. Whatever the future is doesn't matter yet so long as you escape. And I love this picture because with such a thick frame it feels incredibly claustrophobic. Like the exit has much less to do with the ocean and the niceness of that than it is just about getting past the frame, being able to look more openly again. You know, it's not the most picturesque, optimistic depiction of the sea here, but that doesn't matter. You just want to escape the claustrophobia. Or this one almost feels like an optical illusion or something like that. You know, it's just slightly wonky, and the wall right ahead with a pillar sticking out and the edge of another door. It almost gives you a headache to look at because it feels so confusing. Like this escape isn't really an escape, but leads you into being even more lost. And that, I'm pretty sure, is a common feeling we all get at points in our lives. And also, I guess, is this exit door, is it one in front of you that you're going to go through, or is it an exit you've already gone through that you're now looking back at? Because perhaps then this was an exit you didn't want to take. Perhaps you were forced out and you're yearning for whatever you've left behind. Your youth maybe, an old job, an old relationship, I don't know. Yeah, entrances as well. This one's interesting because the angle of it, the fact it's not head on, you get the sense you could keep walking past this entrance if you wanted to. That makes it less pressure, you know, less daunting a decision where there's a right and a wrong, rather than something you're free to explore for a while. You know, you could just poke your head in and then get back to being on your way. You could dip inside and escape the sun for a few minutes before coming out again, you know. If the door is down a set of stairs, that's immediately likely to make it feel more ominous. You know, the door down to the demon's lair, the evil place where the boss battle happens. Sometimes this is a door people try to ignore, like a monster locked up in a basement, you know. You try to forget it's there because it would mean confronting some dark truths about yourself. However, sometimes you do have to face those demons. Sometimes you choose to walk through that dark door, knowing how dark it is, knowing there'll be dangers and horrors on the other side, but you choose that door because no matter how scary they are, you trust you can face up to them. That's a very, very common trope in stories. Sometimes it's not as simple as a good or bad door though. Maybe it's an old door that signals a return to an old way of living, something traditional or ancient. Maybe it's an overgrown lost door that signals rediscovering something long forgotten, you know? And I really like this painting because the right side of the image is depressing as hell. Sitting at a dark, black, blank desk pressed up so close to a plain wall, you know. Yet here's this door that leads into the lighter rooms, the same blank walls but it's lighter there. And there's this woman who might offer intimacy or love or something, but she's got her back to you, plus she's distanced through two doors with this in-between space in the way. You wonder what she's looking at and if she would turn to face you if you call to her, or would she ignore you? Can you cross this in-between space to reach her or not? And there's also the safety of doors as well, like I was saying about the bedroom, because sometimes you're quite happy to stay in a room, sometimes the door's more to do with what you would like to keep out. How secure do you feel behind the door? Is it safe enough that you can forget about it and focus on other things, or is it still drawing in your attention, you know, where like you can't bear to look away because you're afraid it might burst open any second? I wish I could think of an example from film of that, but you know, sometimes you can have a camera just linger the focus on the door for a few extra seconds, and that can add a feeling of tension, like maybe I'm not safe in here, maybe this is going to burst open in a minute. And I guess, as a side point to that, there's also the question of when does security become imprisonment? When have you made the door so secure and locked and defended that you've kind of trapped yourself in, denied yourself the world outside? And of course, if you add people to the picture, then there's a billion more things it might be symbolising. This painting of a lady in red is an interesting one, because red is a colour of desire, and I suppose like this painting earlier, there's the question of the viewer looking at this woman. Are the intentions innocent, or is there something voyeuristic? And with this one here, the way the room keeps leading on through more and more doorways at slightly different levels, so one doorway doesn't lead smoothly into the next, you know, they don't quite align, and personally, to me, I think that conveys a feeling of fragmentation. Like, this is a woman unsure of her identity, or perhaps the viewer is. The painting is definitely fragmented between all the rooms, as probably the viewer and the woman are fragmented in their relationship to each other. If it's a relationship. I don't know. I've never studied art. I'd be curious to see how people in the comments can add thoughts where I'm so clearly ignorant here. Yeah, I don't know what I've said in this video. I suppose it's just useful to think symbolically about what doors might represent and why they can be so powerful in images. For, say, if you're painting doors in a picture, or you're writing them in a story, you know, I think a description of a door at a poignant moment in a novel can express a hell of a lot if you do it rightly. Anyway, I should have something a bit more for you next week. If you did like this video though, please like the video. Comment your own thoughts. Add to my rambling mess about doors if you'd like. Subscribe if you haven't done. Support me on Patreon if you want extra benefits. But otherwise, hopefully see you next time. A special thank you goes to both my Big Fortree patrons, Neubert and Devin. Thank you so much to both of you.